It started with a bell. Ding! Another customer pushed through the front door of the big box retail store. Another demanding voice. Another unreasonable request. And for the young man behind the counter, another moment of customer service purgatory. He was just your average retail worker, early 20s, wore the uniform, showed up on time, knew the store like the back of his hand. But most importantly, he had a sense of humor and a breaking point. This is the story of what happens when you give a smart, fed-up employee a name tag and a stage. And trust me, this story gets weird in the best way. So here's the setup. He worked at a chain store. Think Walmart, Target, something like that. He wasn't a manager or anything fancy, just the guy who helped customers, stocked shelves, and ran the register. But over time, one pattern became crystal clear. Every so often, a customer would come in with a big, entitled attitude and a petty mission: to get someone fired. Why? Because their expired coupon didn't work, or a discontinued item was out of stock, or they just didn't like being told no. And when they didn't get their way, they'd demand the manager and say those dreaded words, "I want him fired." Even when he was polite, even when he followed the rules, even when he was just doing his job. Eventually, it stopped being frustrating and started being funny. So he had an idea. What if he gave them what they wanted? The next time a customer stormed up, furious because he wouldn't return a clearly used vacuum without a receipt, she screamed, "I'm going to get you fired for this." He smiled. "Oh no," he said dramatically. "Please, not that." Then he turned to his manager, who was completely in on the joke. She rolled her eyes, gave him the most sarcastic faux scolding you've ever seen, and said, "That's it. You're done. Get out. You're fired." And him? He dropped to his knees like he'd been shot in a Shakespeare play. He clutched his chest. He whispered, "Tell my mom. I loved her." Then crawled off behind the counter humming a funeral march. The customer, stunned. The employees, crying, laughing. And they didn't stop there. It became a thing. Every time a customer tried to weaponize, "I'll have you fired," they ran the bit. One time, he cried and walked out the door. Another time, they made an announcement on the loudspeaker. "Attention shoppers, Steve has been fired for refusing a pizza-stained comforter." It was hilarious. It was healing. It was genius. And then it spread. Other co-workers joined in. One girl threw her apron on the floor like she was in a soap opera. Another guy laid flat on the ground with his arms crossed like he was in a coffin. They had fun. They bonded. They stayed sane. And here's the best part. They never broke the rules. They still did their jobs right. They just added a little theater. Now let's take a step back. Is it immature? Maybe. Unprofessional? To some. But look deeper. Customer service jobs are brutal. You're underpaid, overworked, and expected to smile while being insulted by total strangers. People forget that workers are human. And when a customer threatens your livelihood because you won't break store policy, that's not okay. This story isn't just funny. It's resistance. It's turning cruelty into comedy. It's fighting back with flair. It's reclaiming dignity with a fake firing and a dramatic bow. There's that old phrase, the customer is always right. Let's be honest, they're not. Sometimes the customer is angry. Sometimes the customer is wrong. And sometimes the customer is a bully. But when the staff stands together, supports each other, and says, "Enough," with a wink and a joke, that's powerful. That's what survival looks like in retail. And you know what's wild? The managers knew. They saw it all. They let it happen. Because they were tired too. They saw how it boosted morale, how it brought laughter back to the floor, how it made their people feel human again. And as long as nothing was truly out of line, they let it roll. More workplaces should. So here's the real takeaway. If you've ever worked in customer service, you just clapped out loud. If you've ever been talked down to because of your job title or your name tag, you felt this deep in your bones. And if you're a customer, let this be a reminder. Be kind. Be patient. That person helping you, they're not your enemy. They're a person. They've got stress. They've got rent. And they've probably already been yelled at 3 times before noon. But here's my favorite part of this story. It's not just about laughs. It's about taking back control. Because in a world that constantly dehumanizes workers, sometimes a little joke is the loudest protest. Sometimes crawling behind a register while humming your own funeral march is the way you say, "I'm not afraid of you anymore." It's theater. It's therapy. It's telling the world, you can't break me. And now, here's my take. I love this story. Not because it's hilarious, though it is, but because it's deeply human. It shows how people survive the grind. It reminds us that resistance doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it wears a red polo and holds a barcode scanner. It proves that even under pressure, we can laugh, and that sometimes humor is holy. So now it's your turn. Was this petty or powerful? Would you fake your own firing just to make a toxic customer rethink their life choices? Let me know. And if you've ever worked behind a counter, at a drive-thru, in a hotel lobby, or anywhere that made you feel invisible, you're seen, you're strong. And if you ever do fake your own firing, make it a show. This is AITA Stories, where we tell the truth through the most entertaining drama on the internet. Until next time, be kind. Or don't be surprised if the cashier drops to the floor and whispers, "Tell my mom, I loved her."